Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1st of February. My name is Dejan Ljubojević. I'm the course leader and module leader for this particular module and course. This is induction session, and this is the first time we are in the same place, however virtual, that we are all together. And the purpose of this session is to bring us all together, to introduce us to us, and to introduce the course and the module 1 that we all are going to explore in the next few months. Now, just explaining as we came in that some of our colleagues appear on the list as guests, and that's most likely the reason for that is they are colleagues, they are on this course. It's just that the enrollment hasn't been completed, or they have not quite sussed out the difference between the registration enrollment number and the user ID, which is the same, that number, but with a K letter in front of it. So it's like a composite of letter and the number that is the ID. So those of you who are guests, you may want to try that strategy to access the Canvas system. In case you have been enrolled, it's just that the mistake you're making, or most likely you are still need to complete your enrollment in order to then fully be able to access as fully fledged members of the course rather than as guests. Now, that's all for the introductory notes. If everybody's fine and can hear me, I'm going to move to the next slide. So welcome to the PGCLTHE. It is your course. My role and Christos's role is just to steward you through this experience. We are based physically, which is of little relevance, speaking in terms of an online course. We are physically located in a leafy part of London, which is Kingston Hill, actually the closest part to central London of Kingston area or Kingston Borough. And this picture that you see on your screens is of the campus, obviously, but that little square, red square is where we are actually located physically. I'm told that in the past, education department or faculty of education was the entire campus, so that entire red line parameter was education, and they have well, the time has decimated us into that corner now of the campus itself, which is, in one way, all the proliferation of all other disciplinary areas is a good thing. And yeah, of course, we are strong, even if we are reduced in a sort of geographic footprint. So this particular today is about introducing each other to us, as I said, and to do a course overview and the assessment overview of the how we're going to go about entire course and the module 1 in particular. So let's get on with introductions. That's me in that many words. I'm a lecturer in education. I've been working with Kingston for last almost coming to close to 6 years now. This course I've been presenting for 5 years now. In various, we started off with sort of blended more like a face-to-face and online, but now we moved pretty much last 4 years completely online. Now, just in case, because I've just noticed on the side that Rezania was saying that she can't hear me, and I'm just saying if that's if you can't hear me, just let me know. And if I see more than one, good. So Rezania can hear me now. Good. So if I see more than one complaint about audio, then I know it's probably me. If it's only one complaint in the chat, usually means it's the problem with the person who can't hear. So something to do with the speakers or. So that's one of the etiquettes of the online teaching. So yes, and my expectation is, as ever, is to really, I think I learned the most about my chosen field of study, which is the teaching and learning and technologies for teaching and learning, is through, these experiences. I get to hear and explore the ways your various disciplinary areas, how you approach it, how your experiences and changing kind of characteristic of a practice. And so it's almost like an opportunity for me to, that's my expectation, is to really hear and learn about you. And one interesting fact about myself is that I had a brief collision with a musical profession. We used to tour mostly London with our band. We do Balkan Gypsy music covers. And probably the most famous moment of all that time was in 2009. We were playing Queen of Hoxton, which is here in east part of London. And on the top of that bill, on the bill that we were on, my band and myself, was no one other than Ed Sheeran. He was just getting going, so he was doing all the small venues around London. So I was in the same bill with Ed Sheeran once upon a time, and that's my biggest claim to fame in musical career. So that's a long forgotten almost. It's 8 years ago. As far as my teaching, I've been teaching at Linnaeus University in Växjö, Sweden, which was 2012-13. It was online teaching. It was I was pretty much residing in London and flying off to Linnaeus on occasions, but most of it I was doing it from remote. And that was quite an interesting experience, which it's a subject of my research, which I call real-time blended, because at that time, that university was very well equipped. So you had all the microphones and all the provisions for 10 or so students to be in the room, and 10 or so students to be outside of the room. And you would do what I call real-time blended, which means that wherever I was, in the room or outside of the room, the entire proceedings would be seamless, and it was all recorded, and it's more on that as we progress through this. It's a very useful and maybe timely thing for all of us to consider, how we can do physical and online combined. Since 2013, as I previously said, I've been lecturing education here at Kingston, and my research is something that actually dominates my CV pretty much in terms of time, the period of time I've engaged with it. And it's my second postdoc is most informing of my practice presently now. The stuff that I developed, a piece of software that I developed for learning design, will be something you'll be using in module 1 to help you systematically approach thinking about your planning of teaching and learning and assessment and so on. So in many ways, that's pretty much all about me at this stage, and we will obviously get to know each other as we progress. So now Christos is online. This is Christos. Can you?
Hello, you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, or we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, and hello everyone. I cannot see everyone at the moment, but I welcome you all. I had some problems, and that I joined this conversation late. So thank you, Dejan, for having me here. My name is Christos Dimitriadis. I'm a senior lecturer in School of Education and course leader of the MRS education program. We work with Dejan together on this online program and on a new one about the research methods, which is online as well. And I'm very pleased to see new colleagues join the course, and I'm looking forward to hear more from you and learn about you and see your contributions to the discussion and to the course. At some point I will need to leave this room, unfortunately, because I have some other things in my schedule, but yeah, I'm really happy to and looking forward to see more of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Christos. This was short and brief, and Christos is busy today, so thanks again for making time to join us at this induction event. Now I'm going to ask all the present in the room to follow these few things, and also, if you would like, and if you don't mind, and if you have the capability, to switch on your camera. So that we can see you, and that helps a little bit with just sort of cementing some sort of bonding of sorts, recognizing each other's faces. That can help us, get going and bonding faster. So what I'd like to go, maybe if there's any volunteers, but I'd rather go with the list, which is so we have Abs Kassa, which is a first person on the list, alphabetically speaking. And if Abs would like to, okay, so Rezania is saying there's no camera, but Abs, if you can, do you have a microphone, Abs? Or you can type for us in the chat if you don't have a microphone. You can, okay. So let's go to then, let's try somebody, let's try with the people who have microphone, obviously. So Guy McRae has got a microphone. So
I think so.
Oh, very good. Yes. Oh, yes, I can see you now. Thank you. The cameras are coming online. Excellent. Right. Right.
A few minutes late.
Yes. Go. So yes, name, current role, expectations, and one amongst many interesting facts about yourself, Guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Guy McCree. It's McCree, not McRae. Which some people get wrong sometimes, which annoys my grandfather, not me so much. I work at the minute. I work in sports broadcasting. So what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to start teaching as well, which I'm doing a little bit of in Cardiff. But my kind of long-term aspirations, I suppose, are a little bit more. This course has set me up to do that alongside what I do in my industry work already. So, yeah,
can you just come closer to the microphone, Guy? Just a little bit closer and a bit louder if you can. It's just it's all audible, but it's just a little bit would be effortless, more effortless.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, that's a bit better. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was just saying that obviously this course is very, very highly rated in terms of preparing people, giving people the skills, the knowledge, the experience to go on and try and make a success of a teaching career. Personally, I'm not someone who necessarily is going to look to teach full time, at least for the next few years, because in my industry, people who go into teaching, it's actually valued that you're working within the profession as well. So say it's going to be something that I'm looking to combine for the next few years, but longer term, it's a goal, no question. And I think that this course will prepare for that kind of next stage. Interesting fact about myself. Ooh. You've caught me here, Dayan, because I'm first up, and I'm interesting fact about myself. You come back to me on that. Still there?
Well, thank you, Guy. Yes, it's always difficult to speak of ourselves. I know, but yeah. So,
what have people said in the past?
Right. So the next. Yes, I'm going to move on to the next colleague who has a microphone that I can tell, and that's let me just what I'm doing quite rudely. You notice this. I switch off your microphones when you're not talking, because that can interfere with whatever is going. So don't mind me just doing if I do like some bouncing work, like if I sort of mute you. So we have LC Uwegba. And that's, yes, please, if you could say name, current role, and expectations, and so on.
Okay, my name is LC Uwegba Obatari. I am an advanced midwife practitioner with the Queen's Hospital, BHR in Romford. I teach students as well in the university. I assess them as well. I got onto this role because I wanted to know more about how to go about, assessing the students, more about technique of teaching, and also preparation of curriculum and all this kind of development of a module guide and the ability to function effectively in the higher institution of learning. My expectation for this will also goes on to by the time I finish this role, I should be able to have developed a higher skill of how to progress more as a teacher in the higher institution of learning. So my expectation, again, being the fact that it's online, my expectation is to make sure that I also have clear delivery of my lectures and clear instruction on how the assessments are going to be done, and then the final conclusion at the end of the course as well.
Right. Anything interesting about yourself? Do you want to share with us? If not,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yes, I am a very, very innovative person. I have a great sense of humor, and being a midwife, of course, you will expect that from any midwife.
Yes.
Many important thing about me again is my passion for certain area of midwifery, and I'm very good. I love music, I love traveling, and I love research work.
Thank you. Right. Next, please, Graham, if you could, I'm going to mute Elsie and then get Graham to unmute, or he can do it himself, I guess. But yeah, sorry if I've just reversed what you tried to do. So I'm going to do it now myself. Right. Now you should be audible if you speak, Graham.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Graham Turner. I'm a lecturer practitioner at the Royal Marsden School, within the same building at the Royal Marsden Cancer Hospital in Chelsea in London. I've been there since September. It's my first formal higher education sort of teaching role. I've taught across a number of different jobs I've done before, but mainly sort of courses and short courses than actual formal higher education. Expectations is to sort of solidify what I've done already, but also learn the true theory behind sort of teaching in that environment. Quite keen to sort of get it right and really work on thinking about what I've done today. There's a lot of different learning styles in the classroom, and really trying to get in-depth knowledge as to how to best do that in mixed learning groups, studying at different levels. So yeah, with regards to the one interesting fact about me, so I'm a paramedic by background. Not a nurse, as most of my colleagues are. I actually served in the Air Force for 10 years and was one of the crazy guys that used to sort of work on the back of the helicopters, running off the back end of it to pick guys up that were injured front end. So that's probably about the most interesting thing you'll find out about me.
Well done, yeah. Sounds like you saved some lives, which is more than I can say. I may have saved some few minds with my teaching, hopefully. But thanks, Graham. Now, from the colleagues that don't appear to have microphones, like Abs or Kate or Nabil or Saverio or Ezania, if you would, I don't know, type some words if you can't access microphone, or yes, Francesco is saying hi, hopefully followed by so just type a small little in the chat box, maybe, just so that, and I can read it out, so that you have some sort of presence in this little get to know each other's part. Trying to say, how can I, so Francesco is looking to activate his microphone. How about Kate and Abs and especially Kate? She's got my camera going, but not the microphone. That's a curious. And Francesco as well has got a camera, but no microphone. So in these, if you would just, your disciplinary areas would be interesting for us to know. So your name will come up as you type it in the text box anyway. So if you just say what disciplinary area you are teaching and well, expectations, but yeah, just maybe mostly I would say what's interesting to us. So this is Abs. Hi guys, sorry microphone is not working. I'm a consultant in pediatric dentistry at the Birmingham Dental Hospital. Do a lot of teaching locally and regionally, so would be great to make teaching more effective and adapt to learning styles. I've bungee jumped 150 meters, that's a brave one, in New Zealand and survived. Well, excellent. That last bit we could have sort of deduced from the fact that you're typing it right now. Good. So no injuries. That's always a good one. Yeah, a bit of envious, jealous sort of that you could have done that, and I have no courage for that sort of thing. So Rezania is saying, sorry, my microphone is not active. I am a course leader at LSST College. I have been teaching business and marketing module as well. I have no teaching qualification. That's why I started this course. Good. So that's Abs and Rezania. And well, hopefully you get the other few. And even if that's something that people are struggling to type now, frantically, into the chat box, we can get back to that, and we'll definitely. And the first few activities in the module 1 are about telling each other about our practice, and that will entail a lot of this. So we have pediatric dentistry, we got marketing, business. We have colleagues from paramedic, disciplinary area. Then we have journalists. So we have quite a spread, and I imagine there will be. Because this is like the enrollment time, so we have quite a few more people coming in, and so we'll have about maybe 12 or 13 colleagues in a January intake, and that should give us a nice spread of disciplinary areas. So Kate is now in with her little introduction. I'm an artist and senior printmaking technician. Here we go, we have an artist as well amongst us at Kingston School of Art in London. I run an open access workshop for undergraduates, postgraduates, and PhD students teaching traditional printmaking techniques. I want to do this course because my job involves a lot of teaching. Very good. So it would be good to have a teaching qualification. More to the point, yes, qualifications are always good, and but what we hope to do is equip you with all the little ideas and tools that you can then, with less effort, produce better effect. So your students are happier and you are less overworked. I think that's the sort of beyond just qualification. That's our aim, is to really make your practice much more smoother and more effective, more pleasant all around, and less energy sapping. Because when you do something in a wrong way, you tend to do it for a longer time in a repetitive. You have to repeat things because you haven't done it in an effective way. So if you do it effectively with a little effort up front and in a proper kind of places, you can do so much. You can save so much energy and time. And Kate is originally from Wales, she's saying. Is that interesting? Yes. Yes. Exotic is a concept. It's in the eye of the beholder. If you're not from Wales, I guess that's an interesting and exotic fact that you are from Wales. Now, Guy is saying that Guy is coming back with a fact about himself. Although I am a sports journalist, my undergraduate degree was in philosophy and theology. All right, excellent. So we have always interesting to have a different disciplinary area kind of experience. Welcome, Kate from Wales. Hi, so this is now Francesco, and I think that completes almost everybody's now. Yes, I think everybody's now being. So Francesco is coming in with his introduction. Hi, I recently had my PhD in international security. All right. I'm currently a manager in a company providing student support from Ireland to distance learning universities in Italy. All right. Would you just care to say what kind of international security, like what do you mean by international security? I'm not clear what that's. Maybe it's. I'm also lecturing in a brand new private small university in the UK and in a distance learning in Rome. Wow, I would love to have a research and lecturing experience in the US or full-time position in the UK. They are asking more and more for PGCELTHE in teaching and learning in HE. Very good, yes, and they should, because in higher education it's been completely absent. That we, you could be the only thing that qualified us for lecturing in HE in the past was disciplinary expertise, doing research and whatever, but that when you come to teaching, nobody was ever paying any attention to teaching. So all of the university academics were incentivized to look into their research and not to look into the teaching. So now we are slightly changing that balance. Hopefully, it's going to be restored in some ways, because teaching is for most of us, it's 50, 60%, even 70% of our job description. So we should pay more attention to it. I got back to academia after a long time playing in theater and working in investment banking. Oh my God, that's quite a versatile background. I think it's a quite strange combination. Nice to meet you all. So Francesco is talking about jihadism, insurgency, and terrorism. So it's international security in that sort of, the most omniscient, ominous rather, interpretation of the world, right? Which is, the life-threatening situation, security, right? Good. So Christos was saying that I see the links in Guy's biography choices, and I think that's a follow-up to that. Good. So Christos is saying goodbye, and yes, thank you for being with us to this for as much as you could have. Thanks, and yes, thanks and goodbye. Right. Now let's move on to the course overview. There are many ways we can describe this course, and I think what we try to do is to make it as pragmatically kind of useful to you, whilst not forgetting, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, and to have you really kind of learn about how you can improve your practice, but whilst doing that with some sort of links to generating principles for all, because practice that is unaware of its generative framework can be oftentimes counterproductive, or you could do something that you I'll give you one fable thing that I actually talk about in one of the later lectures when it comes to learning design. One of the things that I picked up in my primary school, I think it was one of those little stories about how, like recommendations in life. It was about a donkey who was saddled with some 50 kilos of salt, and he was saddled and loaded with that to carry. And on his journey, this donkey just slipped and fell in this like a small river. And what happened is that salt that he was carrying through those sacks was dissolving into the water. And when he got up somehow, he realized that that's a lighter weight is a consequence of getting the load soaked. So that theory was formed in the mind of that donkey. So the story goes, the next time the donkey was saddled with 50 kilos of wool, and at the sight of the river, he just rushed into the river just to make his load lighter, and of course he drowned. So theories, and when we do our practice, oftentimes we base it on a limited experience and anecdotal experience, and in that way we try to use the same approach to what appears on the surface to be the same thing, without understanding that there is a lot more in the background. So when it comes to these ideas of what we explore is to try to marry those as much as we can, of course, because none of you are in education philosophy specialists. So we try to infuse our practical exploration with as much of that theoretical, background understanding of things, generative and things. So active learning is a concept that is very easily evoked around the sector, and everybody's doing active learning. But in a true sense of its sort of meaning, I guess, where I come through my research and my reasoning around it, I came across some famous academic called Timothy Leary, who wrote even back in he was a psychologist from Harvard University, but also infamously was linked to LSD and psychological experiments involving hallucinogens. But he wrote in the 1990s the book on interface design, which was computer interface design. He was talking about, back in the 1990s, there's a book published of essays on the topic about looking at PCs, like personal computers, as ICs, interpersonal computers. So at that time, coming from his field, which is psychology and psychoanalysis, the ideas of interpersonal space and interactivity were dominating his thinking. So he was able to predict what we now call social media, if you like, or are pretty much biggest use of computational technologies to for social networks and so on. He saw that even before internet. He was talking about the potential for those things and the purpose of the computer to be that sort of enabler of that. So active learning and another just on the side of that is that from quantum physics, some of you may have heard of this. It's called double slit experiment. It's a puzzle for physicists. When you observe these phenomena, they behave in one way. When you don't observe them, they behave in a different way. So in that electrons and particles behave as waves or as particles, depending on if you observe them or not. So there's a lot of this idea of if something is being in a way done in a way that is if you like, sort of faced with something or not, if it's secluded or included. And it's, in my view, if it's not interactive, you can't really be active. So if you're not interacting with a particular, there is not some sort of active processing of things. And if you, as a teacher, you make a lot of provisions inside the environment, that environment is not necessarily only classroom, far from it, but in any other way, with a simulation, with a digital systems, or even with the way you design a question and a follow-up and how you prompt reflection, you can design for active learning. We will obviously talk about it in great detail over the 2 modules that we have in our time together. Now, theories of learning, again, they're very, they broadly come into categories of what we used to think about. It's called behaviorism. It's like a superficial, surface level understanding of how things how learning progresses. Then cognitivism, and then now we are mostly talking about social constructivism or constructivism. And again, those are very sort of big classifications, and none of them have complete answers to every learning situation, and all of them have some relevance in at times. Behaviorism is, as I said, it's a very superficial way of looking at things, but you can include some of the ideas from that epoch of understanding of learning and psychology of learning, in sort of providing small rewards and crafting your feedback to be praising certain good aspects of student work. And so even though some paradigms for most intents are obsolete, we still can take some like gamification and so on, some very interesting insights from the, as I said already, obsolete in many ways paradigms of the past. So there'll be theories of learning. Of course, we'll come through that, and not merely in what we're going to talk about, but how we're going to go about it is going to be very important. As in, you will learn through the ways that we design this course, and that should get you a little bit more a hint at so for you to think about doing the same in your teaching. Equality, diversity, and inclusion are mostly, and quality assurance are the topics that we will treat mostly in the second module, but they all feature in all sorts of places in smaller measure. Now, what is that? It's all about, obviously, they are all enshrined in policies and regulations in our institutions, so we should all learn about them, of course. But it's almost to the way we should look at them, because they all come as a little kind of something to be aware of in terms of, you know, like almost like a barriers to our practice, but they should be actually seen as resources, especially diversity. Diversity is in a globalized world. Diversity is a resource. We can actually get so many different experiences from different cultures, different disciplinary areas in our context here. So diversity shouldn't be seen as something we need to, you know, be aware of, so that we don't make an error in terms of, you know, in that sort of way. But in a way, it should be seen as an asset to our practice. And obviously, the more diverse the student body, student cohort you have to explore your disciplinary area together with, there will be obviously the dominant demographic in that diverse group, and often we can, you know, whilst trying to democratically serve the majority of students, we can sometimes forget to include those who are not belonging to that biggest group. So those are the little things we're going to look at, and but mostly from a, as I said, policy and regulatory side of things, because they're quite well defined in that way. But of course, to speak of them as opportunities rather than restrictions or some sort of because once you bring out the, I'll give you one more example from my most recent research interest. Is called it's Paulo Freire. He's famous for his idea of humanizing education, because he sees education as you know, being completely turned into a training, not an education, and what he talks about, very almost one of his concepts that he talks about is called oppression, or so the oppressive potential is present in any dialogue that is not like reaching reciprocity. So a teacher to student, that's a relationship that is quite obviously disbalanced, as in teacher has more power than the student in that relation, government and a citizen, manager and employee. So he looks at these ways of how the everyday existence is like a minefield of these disbalancing relationships between people, and therefore, you know, equality and inclusion, diversity, all these issues should come as sort of almost like our attempt to humanize practice and the world in that way. Professional standards, or UKPSF, it's abbreviated. That will become a very strong. It's a strong feature of this course. In fact, our assessment is based around what's known as areas of activities, which is 5 areas of activities that make up the standard, or UK professional standards framework. And like in other areas and disciplinary fields, you have a set of standards that obviously in teaching and learning is it's a softer implementation of it, unlike in some risk intensive or what do you call it, lacking the word, but like medical or even sometimes in engineering, you have you know, the standards that need to be in place before you would be even considered to assume a post of practitioner. So in our field, That's UK Professional Standards Framework, and I think UK is the only one in the world that has it, and it's an envy of others. I know that for a fact. Others are trying to establish their national standards or to borrow from the UK standard. And in as much as it's, nothing is perfect, and I find it frustrating in places and not refined, and, but better to have it than not to have it. So this will become a little like a background framework for our time together. And so the first module will be assessment is first 2 areas of activities, or like 2/5 of the UK PSF, for you to produce work and to present your practice in terms of that. And then the second module, a summative assessment, is the rest, the 3 areas of activity from those 5. And so that's in many ways, that's an important part of our course. Course handbook can be found on the website, and it's there. I've circled it, and I put it, well, that space on the website, which is just above the content area, is used for me to advertise things that are, like a daily kind of or weekly news, if you like. So because we are starting a new this module and the course, I put a course handbook there for you to have a look in more details. Now, I mentioned these things a little bit. As I said, the current paradigm that we all, there's a consensus in education, is called constructivism. Social constructivism is an extension of it, because constructivism in itself is it's premised on the idea that mind is socially constructed. And we know this for a fact. It's almost, it's not even debatable. The science knows about 4 or 5 children that were completely neglected in terms of language, social interaction, and their brains are physically 3 times smaller than their counterparts in the same nationality or race and age. So we know that we are social consequences. So in that way, if that's what makes us, then our learning is definitely of that kind. And when it comes to, just briefly to give you a small little idea behind constructivism, is as in, this comes from again developmental psychology. There's an author called Jean Piaget, and he worked with children, but he came up with this a very interesting way of just segmenting this to help you understand what constructivism is all about. And it's about 2 things. Everything we approach in our daily experience, from birth to as they say, to the grave, from the cradle to the grave, it falls in 2 categories. One is assimilate, the other one is accommodate. So when I'll give you my very blunt, self-constructed example. If I take a brick and hold it in front of you, right, and I let go of that brick and it falls down to the ground, first of all, you'll be puzzled. Why am I doing that? So it looks aggressive and completely unnecessary. But what will happen there, if the brick falls to the ground, you will just simply assimilate that into your existing understanding of physics and daily occurrences, and be nothing to write home about, as they say. But if, however, that brick was to remain in the air, you would be obviously puzzled and look for the trickery behind it. Or if I was somehow able to float that brick with my part of my mind or some sort of crafty engineering, you would want to know about it to accommodate your understanding of nature and physics and everything, the daily experience, to accommodate to that phenomena that you observe. So when you see a small child or a baby trying to grab like a rattle or a pen for the first time, it's a psychomotor accommodation to the new object that is grasping. So our mind grasping things, or our little hands, or whatever, the baby's scenario, it's all about constructing the framework of dealing with the world. So obviously in a disciplinary area like what you teach in, and this particular one that we are presently exploring, there are ideas that are intuitive, and there are ideas that are counterintuitive, that we would need to relearn or readjust our parsing of the world in accordance with these new information and new ways of looking at the world. On the second topic, this is the one where we're going to try to give you as much exposure to these moments of aha moments in that sort of social constructivist way, that you build your own picture of the world, because I can't do it for you. And in terms of the previous slides about equality, and Paulo Freire, this is the author that talked about the oppression and how to diffuse oppression, is to understand that the teacher is an expert in what needs to be constructed, as in the knowledge that needs to be achieved, if you like, or the understanding, whereas the student is an expert too, the expert in the terrain and the conditions of that construction taking place. So every dialogue between a teacher and student should be on equal footing. It's like two experts trying to negotiate something. The one is the expert in what needs to be built. The other one is the expert on the terrain, on the conditions, as in student is the expert about their own state of understanding of the world, so they can be the best consultancy kind of a source for how to go about constructing that new knowledge inside their own mind. Community of practice is a broad concept. People write books about it. But boiling down to like a very sort of simple, they kind of, what we would talk about when we talk about communities of practice is developing a culture around this our joint focus. In this case, teaching practice. And I think one of the things to first mention is due to my specialism, I'm a bit of a snob, and I have a very peculiar, vocabulary, and you will learn to tolerate it, I hope, and maybe even, to acquire it. So I don't call learning, because learning is a very impoverished term in English language, but in most languages even. And that I know of course, I don't know all of them, but it would worth reflecting for those of you who speak other languages to sort of go and just revisit what does that mean in how do you say learning in your language and or your other language that you know, and see how that echoes in your mind and what does it mean. So the way I talk about learning is a phrase. I don't say learning, I say a phrase, and the phrase is coming to know. And it's how you come to know something that will determine how you know it. So give you an example. Again, very all my examples are very stark and blunt. If you go in London, you can go from A to B in London anywhere. All right, you can go. Sometimes you can take a boat down the River Thames. A lot of A to B's can be connected that way. You can walk. Obviously, you can drive. You can bicycle drive. You can go by helicopter as well, from A to B. In every case, you're going to go from that same A to the same B, right? But each way will be definitely a different, or you can take an underground. I forgot, that's another complete A to B journey. But in each of these, you have a fundamentally different experience of what you've covered. And if you haven't been to London before, obviously you'll have no sense of other angles on what of your journey. So I'll give you an example again. If you fly with a helicopter over Ladbroke Grove, which is part of West London, you will see a church there from the above. There'll be a church, and it looks very like a Anglican kind of a type of architecture. So you will conclude from that helicopter of yours that is as a Anglican church there, and you will just land at B, and that will be your complete understanding, and for good reasons. That's the evidence. But then if you were to walk by that church, you will realize that it's been converted or repurposed, and it's a Serbian church in Ladbroke Grove. That is, you wouldn't know about it from the air. So in many ways, if you come to know something through discussion, through practice, through production, through investigation, through just sort of reading a book, all these different ways of coming to know trajectories, I call epistemic trajectories in a more technical way, will determine what you actually know about the field, and what will come as prominent in that knowledge, and what will be downplayed or seem less relevant depending on how you set up. So depending what our learning outcomes are for our teaching, we should then go from that and sort of find what it is, what kind of vehicles we want to deploy for our students to. So in that sense, the community of practice and how we call things and how we refer to things is very important, because that's many linguists, in fact, Noam Chomsky, my favorite linguist, they have homed in on an idea that a language as a communication tool was only a second adaptation. So the import of that is that the mind is language and language is mind. And if we start talking about things in calling things different names or more appropriate names, that means that our thinking is more appropriate and therefore hopefully more effectively aligned with our purposes. And I'll give you one more on that and then leave it there for now. For me, calling our teaching lecturing is also very uneasy and uncomfortable to sort of to tolerate, because it's you should categorize things by the like in medical sector they have these Latin names, and or in physics and maths they have these formulas and units and things like that. So we should arrive at some universal descriptors of this. And for me, this session that we do now, it's a synchronous session. And it could be done physically, face to face, or online. It doesn't matter. It's what what it allows for, and so in many ways, and again, once you acquire that kind of stance, then you will look at everything that you do as why do I need to have a synchronous session with you to talk like I'm talking now? Maybe this is induction session, so I'm justified in doing this. I could have just recorded a podcast of all this, and you could just have it, played for you on your mobile phone while you're going to, to pick up your kids or to, whatever, some sort of like a less inconvenient way. But so you keep to a minimum things that are time intensive and and schedule intensive. So unless if you can produce a podcast, you do that. So you do asynchronous or a recorded something. So you kind of with this change of the way of looking at things, and hopefully as a community we can develop a small like a culture around which you can then proceed afterwards to develop. Reflection and feedback are good. Kate is saying that she needs to leave us. It will be all recorded and you can finish off later on. Reflection and feedback are the reflection in this particular reflection in general is the most sophisticated kind of things to get right. And we all reflect at all times every day. Sometimes it's not as conscious, sometimes it's as more conscious. But in terms of our disciplinary area and being effectively reflecting about occurrences, phenomena, concepts in our daily practice, that requires obviously bring ourselves up to speed with a lot of information and things about our teaching, so that we can reflect better. My famous, again, blunt example is I can reflect on physics, on particle physics, but not very well. So we all can reflect, but how well, it's the question. And there are some heuristic questions that you can go about to scaffold your reflection, why, what for, what evidence, what alternatives, and so on. So for every piece of thinking, you can embellish it with these additional insights or concerns, and therefore make it reflect on it. Another thing I like to it's like a devil's advocate, develop a devil's advocate or a Lucifer's solicitor, I like to say, just to be more memorable, but to have a way of questioning your own judgment and your own thinking. That's, I think, the most difficult thing to so we will obviously have a lot of in this way, a lot of coursework and activities on this course, and module 1 and 2 will be really a lot to do with that. Participant engagement is we are obviously online, and there's no two ways about it. But I would argue that all of our practice today, wherever in HE, is taking place is of blended, at least, if not more or less online, because blended is like using technology as well as the face-to-face. And if you're sending email to your students, you're already in a technically blended domain of teaching and learning. But for our part, we have a small blended component, if you've noticed already. If you haven't, because we did pester you with those little details about your mentor in your context. So our blended component, or why we can call ourselves blended in a small way, is that we have that requirement for you to be observed and to observe your mentor in your institution, in your place of work, as it were. So in that sense, we are, yeah, it's crucial and fundamental to that you keep on, responding to emails or announcements, and you're reading those, and obviously, like in any other course, but there is no like a physical notice board, or we don't come to physically to I can't see you in a canteen and remind you of something like you would in a physical place. So there you go. That's all about that. And then tools for learning, obviously, email, Canvas, mobile, virtual classroom, discussions. Again, all of these will become very, very easy to sort of when we start doing them. And when I show you first module 1 in a few minutes time, you can go to My Kingston to see your to see the what benefits you have as a student. You are a full-fledged student of Kingston University now, so you can take advantage of things. And those who are physically, geographically more closer to Kingston, things like maybe gyms and all that sort of thing also may be available to you. But of course, if you are in a different continent, that might be less than practical to pursue those things. So setting up, ensuring that the communication reaches you, we have in resources, which is on the homepage, is this link to resources, and inside those resources there is a little video, set of videos about working online. And one of them, the one on the left hand side, this one is how to set up email forwarding. So because the announcements and all the auto-generated communication between a Canvas website and yourselves will be going through your student email. There is no way that I can put your preferred email into that system. So it will fire this email like an announcement or some sort of a message. It will go into your student email. But if you set up forwarding, like this video explains in this resources page of the website, in the section, you will be able to set it up to go to your third email, so that ensures that you don't miss on the information. While I'm here, there is the other 3 videos on this category in working online are very useful, again, regardless of your even of this course. Even one is how to get to using the authentication systems to get research papers in if your university or your employer, like would be one, but also now as a student of Kingston University in London, you have your university authentication that you can use to get at research papers from the field of teaching or other fields that you might be interested, but that they have the license for digital electronic libraries. Now, setting up your e-portfolio, again, it's a simple little video telling you how to go about changing the name and title and ensuring that works well. And finally, for the more adventurous around this table, it's how to create your own YouTube channel that you can publish your podcast and so on, and make links easy for your students to access on their mobile phones and whatever, rather than maybe depending on your university or institution provision, which might be limited in ways that it can serve these up. Now, I will go to, obviously, this will be all repeated as we go along, but so challenges and opportunities are few, but again, it's when you I think every challenge can be turned into a opportunity with the right approach and with the right support. So reflection is as I said, it's a lifetime pursuit. It's not something we can teach you on this course. I mean, we can help with directing you towards a less descriptive and more reflective ways of thinking and writing. And just to say here that depending on what's which part of the how your mind has been cultivated up until this point. If you come from more technical engineering side of things, you are more used to reporting, writing a report with like a definite sort of a kind of clear, kind of concise and maybe with like a correct answers that are sought. Whereas if you come from more humanities and of disciplinary area, then your more essayistic, more exploratory kind of ways of writing and more problematized. So the good news and bad news is that on this course and the format that we're trying to serve, which is the UK PSF, UK Professional Standards Framework format, it's kind of like bits of both. So if you used to reporting, then you'll have to do some essayistic kind of like spin on it. Whereas if you're used to essayistic, a kind of exploratory thing, you kind of have to do a little bit more anecdotal practice, kind of a concrete detail, insertion in a very small space allowed. So both of the sides of these on this polarity of, if you like, of how the mind can be trained through the career choice. We have a small challenge, but also opportunity to develop. E-portfolio is, again, some of us are natural writers, some of us are not. Some of us even run their diaries. All right, Kate, thank you. And I guess that's, I think that's a goodbye as well, for sure, right? Now the e-portfolio is obviously, we ask you to write all the little bits and bobs and in discussion forums as much as you can, as often as you can, and that will help us and help you to keep on developing. And for any other things that this induction doesn't cover, your personal abilities and some conflicts maybe in terms of well, maybe the conflicts can arise as we progress. For that, you either approach me and ask me for support, as I'm sure you know that's a normal thing to assume. But also go to My Kingston, this particular place, and look for help. And if you can't find what you're looking for, then talk to me, and then I will try to find support. So this could be learning support, sometimes maybe some hardship that you might have in paying fees, or whatever may be the reason or the problem you may have. That's how to go about it. So that's that. If we don't mind the ones that are left, I can just straight away go into module 1, a little induction. Or if you want a break, let me know. But again, it's not much it's quite self-explanatory. The only interesting thing now is to shift gears. I'm going to now share my screen, and I'm going to now do that as I'm talking to you. The reason why I am sharing my screen is because, as you noticed, this was a very pedestrian presentation. It was very limited in its in what I could have. Well, you do not know this, but I'm telling you, if you're putting a presentation inside this Canvas space, or for that matter, let's not just speak badly about Canvas system, any other system that I've worked with, and I worked with a few. This space that is like called whiteboard in the middle, that you see the presentation so far, it's very limited for the purpose of displaying like a bit more than just a PDF kind of text on paper or text on slide and pictures on slide. But if you want a little bit of animations, or if you want to run a simulation with your, you know, in your teaching, or for any of that, you would need to share your screen. Because once you share your screen, like I'm going to do now, and if you can't see my screen, that not now, just and now should be almost in front of all of you. Right, so good. So hopefully you can see my screen. If you can't, there could be that you need to expand your a little on the bottom left or somewhere. There should be like a little window that is maybe minimized. But you should, can I get somebody's just yes or something if you can see my screen, which is, so good. So Absi says yes. All right, so welcome to your module 1. Good. This is the place where some of you may have been already. Those of you who are guests, you couldn't have been here because you need to not be guests, need to be fully enrolled and fully inside the system to arrive here. So this is, and again, another thing to say, this pink or whatever it is, the color on the bottom is to say that I'm now in a student view. And this is a student view, so I have a teacher view and a student view. So this is the view that is most like your view. So whatever I see and do here will be something that you can see and do here yourself. If you just ignore these things on the side. Oh no, these are actually quite yes, they're timely. The things on the side are obviously the assessment that is lined up for us, and you can see it straight away that we have 8th of March is a formative assessment, so we have time, and it's not a big one as well. And the second formative assessment is slightly bigger than the formative assessment 1, but it's due on 19th of April, so plenty of time to craft it. And then finally, on 24th of May, we will have a deadline for a summative assessment, which I already said it's written, and it's 100% that way. So that's on that little thing on the side. It is always different. But what is never different is the things on the left, which is your picture and your name, usually here. Then this dashboard, which will take you to the all your modules that you do. In this case, only 2 modules, this one and module 2. This you can ignore, or maybe not. Yeah, that you don't need to busy yourself with. And you know, maybe for students who are undergraduates and so on, have many more modules and things that are useful for organizing them. But for us, we don't really need to. Then the calendar. Calendar is obviously what it says. So if I click on that, you get you know, the calendar view, as it were. And I think by default it should be populated with if I go to so it's not populated automatically, pardon me. I think that's with the assessment. I was hoping it's going to be assessment populated, but maybe because I'm in this view, which is artificial view, maybe it's because of that slightly different. But nonetheless, I will make sure it's there. An important thing here is that the calendar for us as online teachers and learners is a place where we can, you know, do all sorts of things. And my surgery times that I will advertise will come as a little. If I go to this agenda view, if I was to create a little set of options for a couple of days in you know, like in times of availability, it will come up in this view for you as a list, and you could then book a session with me at that time. So it will be very, you know, it's very easy to agree how to meet each other on one-on-one basis, or even tutorial group basis. So that's calendar, and pretty much self-explanatory. Now we'll be populating it with all the relevant information as it sort of as it becomes relevant. Now inbox is where your email is, and obviously because it's a student view, artificial view, and it's good because I don't want you to look in my inbox, but that's where you will, you know, where we can exchange emails. yeah, a preferred way is to use this than email client. But again, you can even use email client to post in and out of this system as well. But again, not to confuse you, probably this is best place to do so. And if I respond to this and it comes into your inbox, it will, if you set up that forwarding as we talked about before, it would then go into your preferred email as a forward. So I'm going to back home. I don't know how to go back home. Maybe I just, because it's in artificial view, I need to probably go retrace it back. Yes, I think it's like that. So I will come to, all right, so we're back to the home page. So that's this leftmost bar. It's fairly simple, very generic. On the second to leftmost left toolbar here, we have home, which will takes you back to this page, which is so wherever you are. If I go to discussions and click home, I'm back to the home page, and then I'll talk about home page in a minute. Then you have a link here on the left called assignments, and in there you'll see the 3 assignments that I talked about for module 1. Then you have a link to discussions. Again, self-explanatory. There are topics and discussions that we're going to go through and chat with each other. Then you have grades, and that's where obviously grades will be recorded and you can view them. This is people. That's all of us, right? In fact, there is more than this. If I go, that's strange. Again, this is artificial view, but there's more than this. There is our course administrator Joanna, who's also in the people's page. But obviously, you can go to subset of students, teachers, and so on. You can put this subset. Again, we are not too many in this particular running of this particular course, so you shouldn't be too unruly to see the whole list and then there's an important one, groups, which I'm going to design in maybe a couple of weeks time, once we get the sense of when the numbers are settled and we know how many students are on the course. So I will create a group, possibly 3 groups, I think, at most, given the size of the group in total. Now, pages, syllabus, again, click pages. You don't. I mean, you can use pages for. I'm not sure. We don't make use of this, but in your student view, I'm not even sure you have it. But even if you do, don't worry about it. Syllabus is obviously where you find out about the syllabus for the course. And the module, and conferences, obviously that's the virtual classroom, what I call virtual classroom sessions. They are conferences, so that's there. Again, I can't see them because I'm a student view, but again, it's very self-explanatory, and when I leave the student view, I'll show it to you. Chat, I don't use much on this course. You can if you want to, and it's up to you. It's fine. Quizzes, you have a quiz for this module. The second module doesn't have a quiz. It's just pretty much just getting your bearings about the course. It's not really, any. It's good to kind of go through it just to sort of Google Drive. We can make use of at some point. You can put your stuff there, and there is an issue with this. If you want to use this within university, then you talk to me later. But also we have something called the box, which I've got a little guideline how to use it in the discussion forums. So you will be able to use that if you need to store your files, and you will be needing to store your files online, so that you can make these learning design plans, which will be referencing your materials online, right? So you have to have somewhere you can store files that you can then call upon, and not merely for this course. And again, that's as teachers, you need to be more and more, it's called cloud computing as it were. MEQ reports is where you're going to I think this is the area where you're going to, I don't think you have this, maybe my module evaluation would be the option that you have. And that's where you're going to be asked to feedback on this module, on this course as a student. And I don't know why Google Drive is repeated here, but again, that's not too much of a bother for us at this present time. So this is a home, again, going back home. And another immutable thing that will always be there is this. And this is this has three mandatory things that all courses at Kensington University London have, which is syllabus, assessment and feedback, and my reading list. And this is my own little addition, which is timeline, resources, and e-portfolios. That helps me and helps you organize yourself around this websites and materials. So syllabus, obviously, if you click on that, you go to the page that tells you about syllabus, and there's a course handbook there again. It's repeated in many places. If I go back home again and click assessment and feedback, I can find all the, again, course handbook is always there. We have a UKPSF document, again, connected there, linked there to sort of help you with a particular topic of the UKPS, sorry, of the formative assessment 1. Again, the e-portfolio is a place, this is from the actual handbook. I think this part, because we are asking you in a handbook on page 6, as it says here, to produce a small anecdote, which is then being used as a formative assessment 1 reflection point. So that's why it's that written in that way. Then formative assessment 2, it's the most interesting stuff, I think, for most of you. You'll find it very interesting. It's very hands-on. It's very it's a list of 8 deliverables. And each of these deliverables is actually part of our activities that we do on the course. They are referenced by these numbers. So just by studying working through the activities in the block B, in the second part of module 2, you will be finishing off your, you will be satisfying the formative assessment for the course, for formative assessment 2. Which are both mandatory. So formative assessment 1 and formative assessment 2 are mandatory. They're not assessed as they're not summatively assessed. They don't have a grade attached to it, but they need to be completed in order to qualify you for the summative assessment. Now, summative assessment is written. It's 1,200 words. So for some of you, that's not even a problem. For some of you, may be a problem. But again, 1,200 words is like 2 A4 pages, pretty much. That's what you need to in some normal font, normal spacing, which we specify here, Arial 12-point font and so on, Harvard referencing and so on. And it's really coaching you in this way of reflective writing, which is pretty much what UKPSF, the standard professional framework standard, is all about, is to be able to reflect on your own practice. So that's where the assessment is, defined in more. If I go home, and all of the information you have on assessment and feedback, you're going to have if I go back to assignments page, and if I click on again, say assessment 1, formative assessment 1, you have that information repeated. Oh, because it's not open, sorry. Once it is open, you'll see the same information that you see in the assessment and feedback in that section for formative assessment 1. Now, my reading list, there's core and, oops, oh, I need to leave my student view now, sorry. I'm going to leave student view just because I think it's now messing up with what I can show you. So if I go back to homepage and go to my reading list, right. This is the reading list, and it's all available in the Learning Center at Kingston University. So you can actually get at these texts electronically. Some of them might not be available electronically, but in that case, I urge you to either borrow it from your own library physically, or to buy those texts. And they'll be useful for you to because they are very broad, and they really cover all aspects of our practice. So no matter what you teach, if it's more like psychomotor kind of disciplinary area, like where like sports science or nursing or something that requires lots of skill and dexterity and so, or if you teach philosophy or social science, something that is only kind of mind related and cognitive domain, then it's all these books are really kind of speaking to all these corners of educational practice, as in, no matter what your disciplinary area, these books can be of use to you. So it's worth investing in them if you can't find them online. And I said the key ones should be online, available as a digital text, so you don't have to purchase them. Now, if I go back home again, and now we are in the area of my little addition. As I was evolving this course, I produced something called Timeline. Timeline is where you're going to find all the recordings of all the sessions. I edit them. I put little titles, subtitles with timestamps, so you can navigate quickly to the portion of the video that you want to. So you'll see pretty much as early as tomorrow what this section is all about. It will really capture all our time together on this course in these whole group synchronous sessions. So which will be at least 5 in total after this one for each of the units in the module 1. Now, if I go back to, I can go back home like this actually, sorry. So the next timeline here is resources. And remember I talked about forwarding email and so on. This is that section. Hopefully it's gonna open up soon, yes. This is where I flashed this briefly in that slide. This was the section about how to set up email forwarding, how to, then we have videos on from, where is this from? I keep forgetting. This is from University Sheffield, I think. Anyways, it's a nice little video, few minutes about the area of activity 1 and area of activity 2, which is the UKPSF framework that I talked about, which is your summative assessment. We'll be writing 600 words about area of activity 1, and then 600 words about area of activity 2. So it's good to have that short little rundown of what it is about and how to go about it. All things reflection are also here. We talk about models of reflective practice. So the small little videos from YouTube, really just to sort of help you kind of like just get the overall feel for things, and then you go into deeper investigation. So these are like a little, little sort of like shortcuts to some big ideas that obviously can be explored in so much more detail. But for your particular purposes for this course, a lot of these things can just really open up a small door, and with a little bit more work, and you can get to the point where you need to be in order to write reflectively about your practice in terms of designing and planning learning, in terms of supporting learning, and so on. Finally, down here on the bottom, I have a couple of things that's just sort of general interest around the area, but they're very useful to watch. This is about 1 hour. This is, I think, shorter. But anyways, in your own time, you have these. This is almost like a little curated space for you to come in and just sort of feel. And if you have any suggestions what we can include, please do so. So from the very top, of course, we have module guide, handbook, course handbook. There's a diagnostic tool, which again, it's mentioned in one of the activities. So it's for you to sense how much you need to and where you need to grow and develop in terms of what is required for this course. These observation forms, again, they will be useful for, remember that criteria that you need to observe your mentor, and the mentor needs to observe you. So this using this form, that's how it's done. Also, when we do micro teaching, which is a little online teaching of each other, we will be filling up these forms when you observe each other, about our impressions and observations. Then we have fundamental reading. Obviously, that's the thing. And then by each kind of like segment of the course, we have some reading that is there for you. Now, that's that's the top one. So now actually the last one is very, very quick to explain. It's e-portfolios. And in this place, when I put you in groups, there'll be links to your e-portfolio pages so that you can quickly navigate to your peer page when you need to do some reviewing or reading or just generally exploring. And also, yes, it's like so we can go to each other's page, or even your own link for yourself quickly. You can get at it here. Plus, it's a nice reminder who is in what group. It's very helpful to in that way. So it's just, again, not necessary, but it's there. So that's e-portfolios. This space underneath here is as I said, is like a daily kind of like, or weekly information. It's like a notice board, right? Because it's in the middle and I use it as a notice board. It's only last few presentations that I've been using it, and it's proven very useful. So I put like in star colors, it's usually kitsch selection of colors. I'm not good with colors. I put, like induction sessions, green, like a bold this, and then usually the links, I keep blue for the links. So everything that is in blue up here will take you what it says on the tin. So this will take you to a virtual classroom. This will take you to a course handbook. And in the future will be about preparation for assessment or reminder for assessment deadlines and so on. So now, finally, we got the crux of it, which is the actual sort of the meat of the course, as in the contents. Now, module topics is obviously the title of the category, and it's by topics, and it's usually the most the easiest way to go about segmenting things. So it's got 3 blocks. But they're not, so block, it's like light blue, dark blue, and green one, which is A, B, and C. So block A is the topmost pair, block B is the middle, and then the block C is it doesn't have a pair, it's got 1 unit only inside of it. So each block has 2 units, unit A1, unit A2, unit B1, unit B2, and then unit C1, and there is no unit C2. Now, after each block, there is a reading week. It gives us time to consolidate stuff. And usually at the end of the reading week, there is the Friday of that week, that is a reading week, we have a deadline for us to submit formative assessment 1. Oops, I clicked on it, pardon me. So if I go back, so just to sort of, so each of them are clickable, right? So everything that you see serves 2 purposes. One is to inform you about things, and then second one is to take you there. So then unit B, obviously 1 and B2, and then we have a reading week, and then the summative assessment. And then when we come, sorry, formative assessment 2. Then unit C1, we have a reading week 3 after that, and then sort of 2 weeks after, so you have plenty of time. So including the reading week, you have since the end of teaching to the actual summative final assessment deadline, you have 2+ weeks, and we can use that time to further, revise things and explain things and so on. So below that, obviously, there's things to contact us and to there's like a little canvas kind of introduction thing, and also there is this hashtag that I've been using. So sometimes I will be sending tweets about reminders and things. One thing I found out, Canvas doesn't allow for links to be tweeted. So if I tweet something with a link and put this hashtag, it won't be picked up here. It will be picked up if you put it in your Twitter account, but it won't be here for, and I know quite a few of you might not be using Twitter anyway, so it's not, but it's a nice thing. I'm developing some research about dialogue games using Twitter as a background platform, but that's in the future. But it might even feature in your course, maybe in the second module, if I get it ready by then. But for all this, unless you are passionate Twitterati, you shouldn't consider yourself too much. But also, this should sort of, as a small little effort on my part to push you into these various tools and platforms, just so that you as a teacher have some kind of sense of them so that you can then maybe use it in your teaching. And if your students are there to find them and to engage them there. So all of these units follow the same design. In my second postdoc, I developed something called Pedagogical Pattern Composer, which is a software tool based on a web-based software tool, which produces these designs and exports these designs. So you will learn how to do that. So what you see now from this point on will be something you'll be doing in a couple of months' time. You'll be able to produce these things and to, systematically, if you like. So if I go to the first unit, Unit 8A1, it's actually fully mapped. Other units I will be opening up as we reach them. So this first unit A1 is now fully developed. So all the links are working. So it's got 3 activity sets. So each unit composed of 3 activity sets. In this case, A11, which is induction, A12, online tools induction, and activity set A13, familiarization with your portfolio and Canvas. So it's pretty much unit A1 is about learning online, which it's what it says on the tin, right? The learning outcomes are also listed here for this unit. So we are always keeping to the straight and narrow of what we're doing. And finally, there is this little introductory video which I produced. And it gives you this nice overview of how much time you're going to spend in this unit, 5 hours, and in what kind of activities. And it gives you the learning outcomes and for the unit and so on. So it's almost like a double information. Of course, I speak so that you can even, just have a little, listen to it rather than having to read. But mind you, my diction and my delivery is not the best, so bear with it. Now, this is where activities are now given. This is the end point. These are the leaves of the tree, of the branches. So every activity set, in this case, A11 induction, gives you the time. So from next Monday to next Friday, we expect you to go through these set of activities, right? So the time that you need to do, so you have an entire week to spend 80 minutes, our estimate, okay? So you're given the estimate as well about this. Again, some of you may take longer, some of you take less long, and so on. The case point here would be if you are an e-portfolio aficionado, if you've done blogging before, you don't need to spend, what I suggest here is like 10 minutes. You can do it in, in 1 minute or whatever. So these 80 minutes will differ in how you, this is just an approximation. Then it gives you the subset of learning outcomes that this activity is promoting. Activity set, rather, is promoting. And it gives you a small introduction about what this activity set is about. Then it goes into the activities themselves. And these are the leaves on these branches of this tree. So each activity has these, for now, confusing looking things like produce, read, watch, listen, and so on. Investigate, discuss, but don't worry, there's only 6 of them. You can't get lost. There are only 6 ways of coming to know, 6 ways of learning. And so that's why they're color coded. By the second or third activity set, it will be the language you'll acquire. And you're going to speak that language in about a couple of months' time when we come to do design of these sessions in using the software tool I developed, which is pretty much based on this theoretical background. So in this case, we start off with some production, and that production is about producing 50 to 100 words of text, what you expect from the program, right? It's just a simple little task, but the pretty much the purpose for this task is to put it in your e-portfolio. So you are kind of slowly rehearsing your digital skills with this, exercising in that way. On the side here, because we are asking you to do something, there is always, it says link on the side. So obviously you have a link to ePortfolio. If I click on that link, it's going to open another window. and it's going to take me to my e-portfolio, in which you log in by clicking on this login button, and then proceed to log in with your login details with your so that's what it looks like when you arrive there, and then you can do all sorts of things from here. But that's again for you to discover and to work through. Now, trying to see where I was. I was here, right? So so that's the first. If this is your first time using WordPress ePortfolio platform, watch the short video guide. And this is the short video guide that is up here. Again, there's sound to it, and there is so it's how to log in, how to create a post, how to, and so on, right? So it's all kind of covered. You shouldn't have any need to seek more and further information than what's given here. And there is also a guide. I think it's the website guide. If you click on that, so this is how to work with a portfolio in the written form, if you prefer that to my soothing voice in the video, which, as I said, it's sometimes is very annoying to me to listen to myself, and I don't claim to have any. You know, the way I speak can sometimes be a very difficult to follow. I emphasize in wrong places sometimes. Message. Then, of course, once you've done that, you go through the little video that I produced about the purposes of the program, and then you further then go and do some investigation. Investigation consists of resources for the module, and to sort of look at the sort of stuff that we offer. Go to discussion forum thread and look at all the guides, and then go to complete a multiple choice quiz game, and then you discuss this a little bit, your expectations with and there's a discussion forum link, as you would expect. At no point you are left unsupported in what to do with what resources for how long and where and so on. So it's a very patronizing way of going about, of course, but in a way, if you can excuse sometimes that patronizing tone of these things, we can always decide to switch them off if you don't. Sometimes I had some students saying, "Oh, I need more than 30 minutes for this," or especially when I have a reading activity, like a read on a paper. And I set aside 120 minutes, which is 2 hours for a paper, which is sometimes 20 pages or something. And obviously for some of you who are more reading friendly, that will be hour and a half. And some of you who are not, is maybe 3 hours. But also if you start learning how to read a paper, how to focus on what parts of the paper, how to be clever about it rather than to read everything. In very few cases, you need to read everything from a research paper. You just need to get the gist of it for your purpose, and therefore, so that that time can be really achieved, even regardless of your reading skill. So in many ways, if you just learn to live with that for now, if it makes you feel a little bit frustrated that you can't do things in the time that I suggest here. But yeah, so all in all, that's all down to kind of following through. And then, so this first activity set A11. So just this page, you have a whole of the next week. And if I go to the next activity sets down here at the bottom, so I can go through there, or I can go back to unit A1 and then click on the second activity. But I'm going to follow from here. And this is from, sorry about that, I've got some virus things. I think every time I click on a new link. So what's interesting here is that there is this note in red. So that's February the 6th, and that's the Wednesday next week. You can start looking into this activity set A12. Now, why that is served? So I'm just going to focus on what's different here, because again, there's no point in going. They're all the same, just different content, but it's the old same dynamic. Now, this is where what this means is that sometime between these dates, right, there is a need for you to come together with your peers, right? In this case, it's the this activity. And it says here, work synchronously with your peers for approximately 30 minutes. So you'll find every page that has this note is making sure that you know that for that time, just because we want everybody to be following the same pace or relatively same pace, nobody's going to do it exactly the same, when prompted, but to find some time between a group of your tutorial group, which in this case, in this group will be probably 3 or 4 people, to synchronize your schedules. It's doable. It can be done. So in that way, I think we are helping you to sort of get that like forewarning that you just organize with people in your tutorial group, which I'm going to figure out Monday next week. I'm going to see the numbers and then put people in the group, and then you can do whatever is asked of you. All of you. Because you're on this course, I made sure you can organize your own virtual classroom. Be expected to do so. You can meet with each other in these classrooms. You will be using these classrooms to teach each other in the micro-teaching exercise that we have as part of our formative assessment too. So you will be able to record your sessions, to download them, to even edit them if you are so inclined. So you'll be masters of your own, little classrooms and things, so you'll be very much hands-on. So that's why this particular activity set page has this red thing. And because I know this is the most complicated thing to put together, like to find others at the same time to come together in a conferencing room, we only have this very minimally, maybe 2 or 3 times on module 1. You'll see this red warning. On module 2, we have none. We are very, keeping this, because we know people have very much difficulty to, you are all busy people. It's a work-based learning. This courses. So you have your careers, you have your jobs, you have your families, you have all sorts of things in between. So we are very respectful of that, but also you have to be respectful of the fact that you are studying with us, and we want to help you, and we can only help you if you do what we suggest you do, and then comment on it. But if you don't do what we suggest to do, and whilst commenting, I don't need it, or then we can't be able, we can't claim to. So it's like the warranty expires. We can't help you if you don't allow us to suggest these things for you to do and then do them. So we give you maximum flexibility, which is, the time that you can do it within, find the time between these 3-4 days, and then, for half an hour to meet with your group or others in your group. And so if it's 4 of you, it should be relatively easy. If you can't all come together, then maybe 3 of you can come together in one half an hour session, and the other 2 with maybe another one from the previous group in a so you kind of have that sense, you complete that exercise. I think I should stop here, because we are coming to hour and 45 minutes, which is not too much, but it's also not, for a first session, should be enough. Are there any questions and things you would want me to show, talk about, further explain, or that you find that are of general concern, like group concern, rather than your personal ones? Of course, that's quite a few of you, I'm sure, have issues on enrollment and all that. Maybe one more thing, major thing that I forgot to say is that I'm going to put together a survey, and that survey is going to ask you when would you like us to schedule our 5 synchronous group, whole group sessions, what we call lectures, right? Like this is induction lecture or induction session. There will be one per each unit, and if again to remind you, there are 5 units altogether. So 2 in block A, 2 in block B, and 1 in block C. So for each unit, there is one time that we come together as a whole group and talk about, you know, reflect on things, progress, and, you know, what's coming and so on. So it's almost like a joint interpretative exercise. So that those are the purposes of these whole group synchronous sessions. So I will be issuing a survey to which I would really want to appreciate if you can respond and as quickly as you can to tell me. I will put in this survey around the time for these units coming to an end or a middle point for our sessions to be scheduled. So afternoon, morning, Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, or usually maybe not Wednesday, but yeah, Thursday or Friday, probably the most likely candidates, so that all of you can tell me what's your preference. Would it be, so we put a slot in a Thursday afternoon, if that works for everyone. So we have 5 sessions on, you know, on these dates in each unit. Within each unit, there'll be one date, which will be on a Thursday. It will be on a Thursday here, and on Thursday here, and so on in all of these units. So if it's a Thursday, if it's a Friday, again, same story applies, and we can have so we have a agreed schedule. And of course, not everyone will be able to attend all of these that we agree on. So in that case, we have recording and stuff. But as long as it's you know, 4 are attended and engaged with, and we should be fine, and we should be progressing towards a success on this module. Right. I can't think of anything else to say. Until that survey comes back, I won't be able to schedule our next time together, but you will be informed about it as soon as that survey is back, and I can then perhaps in 2 weeks' time, if I think so, not this, not next Friday, but maybe Friday after or Thursday after, whatever we agree. I may it may be our first lecture, if you like, or the lecture that will be dealing with the content of Unit A1, which is you know, pretty much learning online and learning to learn online. So Thursday or Friday sounds good to me, says Francesco. Definitely better than at the beginning of the week. For good, yeah, for sure. Everything's clear to me. Thank you. Excellent. Thanks, Francesco. I hope the silence from others is due to the same reason, that everything is being covered. And if I've forgotten something that is relevant to you now, and that is not personal, as in, you know, your enrollment or what have you, then yes, I think if there's no questions, I think we can call it a day. This recording will be ready for you fairly soon. I need to close this room in order to get it to process, so that I can take the recording down, and then I can do some editing and then publish it in the, as all of you know. Okay, quick question. Where will the recording appear in the website? In which section? Does anybody know? Can anybody remember? Once the recording is done, where it will be, so question for all of you. You can type it or you can speak it, whatever the preferred. I have no rewards. I can't give you chocolate for the first correct answer. So, right, if there are no answers, I'll count to 5 and see if anybody. So the question is, when I do the recording and edit it, where will it be published? Where will it appear? In what section on this website that we went through? No, it's an obvious guess. Very good, but it's not. It's actually going to be. In fact, the copy of that, the raw recording, unedited, will be appearing in conferences as part of the record, unless I delete it. But there's no reason I should delete it. But when I edit it and I trim it, if you go to timeline section, which is on the top here, it's in there at the. It's going to be built here. So. should be 1st of February here, actually, pardon me. So yeah, so it will be present here. So that's the, yeah, there's too many things, obviously. Quite a tricky question in that way. Good. Thank you all, and really thanks for making first induction sessions so successful, because usually induction sessions are very risky and people are still uneasy and unsure how to find place. So thank you, and until further notice, goodbye. And yes, let's start from Monday, going through the first e-portfolio postings and discussion forums, and so that we can all start seeing activity kind of develop and comment and engage with. Thank you. Very good. Thanks a lot.